me wo ho na menya sutre to an old article bia Gabby Otchere Darko atroye in 2010. Now 2010 Emra ex-president John Evans Atta Mills ofrimu. No, Atta Mills frimu when 2010, yeah, 2010. It was around that time and so na enam say President Akufo Addo onumindro bone na embra na yebo President Akufo Addo chi say onumindro bone na senya America no Gabby Otchere Darko eba betro article bi na article na otro entertaining, but there was a portion of the article bia enkrofo di gina so edeka say Gabby admitted in that article say President Akufo Addo onumindro bone. That's what people are saying. It was an article written some 13 years ago by Gabby Otchere Darko in a way to defend Akufo Addo, but he spoke and sort of allegedly made some admissions. And that article nepi, my main country mo ena baby a Gabby can say Gabby in some can ya and then Krofoka say it is an admission by Gabby Otchere Darko no. And no. Now, this is the article. I say it has gotten to the point that NDC presidential candidate John Evans Atta Mills has come on radio from his temporary base in South Africa to say, I am not speaking from a cemetery. I am talking to you from my hotel room. I am well and fit. Atta Mills is not dead. From discussions at bars afterwards, not even his own voice could kill the suspicion created by the minacious mind which put that practical joke on the NDC. That is how ridiculously, scurrilous. That is how ridiculously scurrilous this year's political campaign has gotten. A baseless, mean, reckless, but probably orchestrated story is posted on the web, Ghana web, that the NDC flag bearer is dead. A couple of radio stations pick it up and without cross-checking, put it out there. They attribute it to the website and believe, as usual, that alone exonerates them from claim or blame. This has been the metastasis route in Ghana, which guarantees that every lie designed to butcher the character of our leaders spreads and spreads like a cancer, with the hope that it maniacally destroys the entire career of those who have chosen to pursue national service at the very top. Now, this wasn't the time Atta Mills ewuye. This was the time and rumors enam say Atta Mills we free. Atta Mills, but once the answer Atta Mills be wu no, by say na we wu. Eno ba bontin be deny say onwuye. Or say the Mills is dead story ended 1 week of speculative noises about the health of Professor Mills. The NDC's way of dealing with speculations about their leader was to apply what they saw to be tit for tat. They upped their jejun, libelous attack on the MPP presidential candidate Akufo Addo. Since his nomination as his party's presidential candidate, Nana Akufo Addo's popularity has soared. He appears to be clearly running away with the polls from the other presidential candidates. The NDC can't find an antidote for this, so they have attributed Akufo Addo's rating to performance-enhancing drugs. They are even calling for a drug test, as if this year's presidential election is one of the disciplines at the Beijing 2008 Olympic Games. Into where obo NDC for the no so we no beka say NDC for the send your more address asem no intro. It is that time na MPP info so as selected Akufo Addo as a year obi a obe lead omo. Ena asem a Otchere Darko can say it sounds MPP for select Akufo Addo na from the time MPP for select Akufo Addo no NDC for yemu ahye omo san into omo ahye ase twa traffic Akufo Addo ho ebi mo kra aka say Akufo Addo no mendro bone into no answer no be debate on mahama ebe debate no and as that time Atta Mills answer no Atta Mills be debate no e was say Akufo Addo ye na drug test answer and Gabby ka say now person ye Akufo Addo drug test aden Olympic Games ni ye ko bo ana. Or say what the NDC hopefully should learn from the Mills is dead fabrication is that the cheapest commodity in political PR is lies. It requires no research. just make it sensational. Everybody can do. So don't ever fool yourself that you hold a monopoly on it. Indeed, if the statesman had not apologized, retracted and continued with that 2006 story that Professor Mills was afflicted by a throat cancer, an extension of what would have been that cancer of the larynx is often caused by excessive alcohol or smoking. Nasolaryngral cancer also affects the nose like sinus. Work that out for yourself. Telling lies is cheap and can be as effective as you have friends in the media. The NPP has plenty, so let not the NDC kid themselves. Fortunately for them, the NPP candidate wants a campaign based on issues, and so it shall be. But no one mistake responsibility for meekness. It is someone no catch NDC for say NDC for in someone more can fa Akufo Addo who sometimes say oye ndrobone no. Omo NPP for omo nim ye pan say ye ntwa ntron to nipa so. Ene de obi eni ho a wonim ye say NPP. But that time no na Akufo Addo etu omo fo. Say mo nye saa de no mo nyai. Ntia na omo ejai no. Enye saa na komo de betre NDC ma NDC fo esi anyansa. Asem ana Gabby Otchere Darko eka saa time no no. Oye no to asoka say they are hackneyed, overused, overaged, sustained accusation that Akufo Addo enjoyed a joint or two was clearly not working. The only that continued to be high was the NPP man's ratings. They had expected Akufo Addo or his team to respond, but none was coming. This frustrated the NDC, but they kept lighting the joint issue, holding it till it burned their own fingers. Events elsewhere might have finally convinced them all that propaganda goes up in smoke as far as voters are concerned. About half of the Tory Conservative Party leadership, including leader David Cameron, had either admitted inhaling ganja or been exposed to have done so. This did not affect their poll ratings negatively. Do British voters no longer take cannabis smoking as a recreational drug seriously? Or do they simply balance what they know about a politician to what the papers say that a politician might have done in his youthful past or at his pastime? So the NDC papers, determined to win this election by burying the NPP under mud, moved from soft drugs to hard drugs. Notwithstanding, attempts to link Akufo Addo 3 years ago to Eric Amwatin's heroin predicament had completely backfired. With the whole scandal being exposed as an orchestrated conspiracy of convenience made possible by the internet between NDC newspapers and a Don Gabby Otchere Darko, and a Don Quixote web 7 character in the UK, who saw himself as the arrested MP's lawyer and for a while made Ghanaians believe that he was both a lawyer and medical doctor. Now, as someone can say, Obabe Ball, time no UK, Omopenyi Prime Minister, what say, in fact, UK for Prime Minister Krano, wa admit pen, say, wachuchu mupen, ganja, wachuchu mupen, like wa experiment, wachuchu mupen. NDC fwaya ede asemno boy Akufo Addo. Now so in fact around that time then so na munya mo beka ya MPP for MP ye che no etumu se wakwa akoye drobo ne munya mo kai za den so say NDC for so yo mo adwen say omode sa de no ebe for Akufo Addo. Say sani MP ni echi no say wo ye drobone no oni Akufo Addo na eye na mo ye ya na NDC for eya emfa omo de ya entale nti nsem a waka no ho no ba be yusu brofo kese na brofo no me pronunciation no Kahoti na me say Quixote no Kahoti nti brofo no Kahoti me share the meaning. The better answer me ba. Kohoti. Me share the meaning of it. Kohoti. interested in someone resembling someone who is, but not unrealistic anyway. No. Also, around the same time, on February 8th, 2005, in Baltimore, Maryland, rumors about Mayor Martin O'Malley came to a head. A report in the Washington Post revealed that allegations of the Democratic mayor cheating on his wife and fathering a love child were false. Worse still, it came to light that a senior aide to Republican Governor Robert L. Leach Jr. planted the stories on a conservative website. O'Malley had, at the time, mounted a serious challenge against L. Leach for the 2006 gubernatorial. He won enough sympathy to upset L. Leach's incumbency. Research upon research has shown that, unlike many campaign-related activities, scandals sometimes have the potential to bring about the defeat of entrenched incumbents. But it would be dubious for the NDC to think that inventing scandals about Nana Akufo-Addo would help their candidate, the entrenched three-term flag-bearer incumbent Mills. Into where Okofa asem no efri amanaman senior oppositions for being so etwa ntroto nkrofo bi so a ne nine ne still and stopping nkrofo na ema wo munya popularity no e no be linkin no se NDC for ade a wo mo ye no e yo mo se wo mo say Akufo-Addo na so mo nim se omo kebi kra ma Akufo-Addo. That was Gabby Otchere Darko, what he was saying. Or say the Palava story put out a story that as foreign minister, Nana Akufo-Addo was arrested at a New York airport carrying cocaine, but was only spared because America, where users are jailed for carrying a gram, showed leniency when the smuggler carrying a diplomatic passport convinced them that the stash was for personal use. It was since that time, no, na NDC for newspaper story be newspaper be a friend the Palava story. Na NDC for control wom say Akufo-Addo kra no as oye foreign minister no ye chino America say no kita cocaine, but some of kind say oh e yade a wonu use personally in America for nso jai no because no kita diplomatic passports. Na MPP abana also say NDC for trust her story no. Also no date of the incident was given. The amount found was also not given. The paper's features editor, who also happens to be the deputy spokesperson of Prof. Mills, told radio listeners that the arrest took place somewhere in 2004 when Nana was attending a UN General Assembly meeting. He said his paper has more evidence. It was a brave lie by any standard. But then again, this is a country where a journalist can say he'd interviewed an imaginary mother of an imaginary teenager who had died after an attempt to illegally abort Akufo-Addo's baby. And yes, that journalist is still allowed oxygen to broadcast. There is something extremely irresponsible about what the NDC is doing. To falsely accuse Akufo-Addo of being a drug addict, a weed smoker, cocaine addict, is to send a very dangerous message to this country's youth who see him as an excellent role model. The message from the NDC to the youth is that if you want to rise to the top, take cocaine like Akufo-Addo. Akufo-Addo is a man who has excelled in every field of endeavor. His children will tell you he's the best dad. In law, he reached the pinnacle of his profession, being counted as among the best of the elite profession. In politics, he has worked hard over the last 30 years and gotten to the top on merit. In business, he has excelled. He has earned a remarkable international reputation as diplomat par excellence. He is a great sport. He's loved by all. To say this man is on drugs is to campaign for drugs. So someone can say, NDC for ndia omo ye ne Akufo-Addo num we na NDC for nim say, ade omo ye ne kra no, omo di bone. Because that time no obobobo say Akufo-Addo waye we na Ghana for bu no ene nyama nkola ni na no Ghana for mebu ni na ahwe na say one day ye pese ye ti say Akufo-Addo. It is a more ka say Akufo-Addo ye drugs ah. In that le more ka tre Ghana mebu ni say omo so nkonko ye drugs ansa no medi yi. This is Gabby Otchere Darko in some more kind. Now I will say the majority of Ghanaians below the age of 50 have been exposed to weed use. Now, a yes, paragraph we, and the asem eba ebre Akufo Addo no. Say this was the paragraph and Gabby Otchere Darko or admitted allegedly say Akufo Addo na onu medrobone no. Now tie. Or say the majority of Ghanaians below the age of 50 have been exposed to weed use, one way or the other. Even if Nana Akufo Addo, who grew up in the flower, liberal age of the funky 80s in both England and Ghana, had experimented with grass, like many students do, what in modern PR tactics informed the NDC that they could win by tagging the man who carries the tag Yenimu Fritete as a dangerous, hopeless, reckless drug abuser. Inti asemo Gabby Otchere Darko kan se ne ende nkrofo use against Akufo Addo ne se wo se Sebe mprediasa and the wofa Ghana for krana no sa time na no kasa 2010 wofa Ghana for a na wo hwe omo a wo modi 50 and below a obehu ne se dodo na omo atwitwi mpan dodo na use wi pen dodo na twimpan inti wohwe obi eno po ye Ghana for eno po ye nipa kura wonyin wo Ghana na imagine wo obi a Sebe onyinye ewo abrochire ene Ghana obi a no wotutu kwan ekwa abrochire eba Ghana ni mpo no wetumi anya wi na atwe na obi a wono etu kwan ekwa abrochire ba Ghana na Sebe ono edru embre bi otwe kakra de na ma NDC fo hu ne se eye bone a ende wo mo pese wo mo de bo Akufo Addo echi se ase Akufo Addo we di bone bi a bone bi a trese esonsen bone bi a wo wiase mu no inti indirectly no Gabby Otchere Darko nsem wo kan ntrase he no inti statement where I will make ye and man crofo ka say and the Gabby will admit it. Or say finally they got a response with the Akufo Addo's lawyers denying he uses any illicit drug. Last year, reports of British Home Security Interior Minister Jackie Smith admitting using soft drugs, cannabis, as a student was as newsworthy as a dog biting a man or a Ghanaian husband being unfaithful. She knew she was on safe grounds. Her predecessor, Charles Clark's admission in 1997, the year he became an MP, that he had taken drugs a couple of times in my late teens, did not stop Tony Blair from appointing him Home Secretary. So was we no sanso ebo embrofofo omo MPs no mo mpanyufo bi kra se omo kra tremu a emra no mo ye mebunu no omo nso twitwe mu bi omo kra ye mbo mo echi nti se Akufo Addo edru mre bi na wo ye memu oye youth oye teen na wo twitwe mu a ende e asem a e wo se NDC for use a wo mo de bo Akufo Addo echi ana Gabby nsem a na wo ka no. Ose Smith followed a series of revelations and admissions on the youthful highness of British politicians. Not odd for any Ghanaian would have been a student in the West and the controlled recreational usefulness of marijuana to many of those who later on turned out to be respectable leaders. Inti seni America no wo tretre mu se abrochi hokra no ade bia ase soft drug we no enya big deal bia ase de ende Ghana obema waware wo fa ne yeri echi ende enye news ase de kraman akwa obi enye news ati ase inti no se politicians kra no wo mo abrochi ho a wo kra mu hu we no se eboni bia wo kra to me admit se wo mo atwe na still ya to aba mo na ende still ye buo mo a se President Akufo Addo no nso bia na ote abrochi ho bi sa time no na onu nso yusu bia ende ya asemu ana Ghana fo wo se mu yusu amode bu Akufo Addo echi Gabby Otchere Darko nsemu wo kana no. Even two Labour ministers responsible for the UK's drug policy have admitted to taking drugs in the past. In 2003, Caroline Flint admitted she took cannabis as a student but did not like it. Her successor was more interested in it. On becoming the Minister for Drugs Policy, Vernon Coker admitted having 1 or 2 puffs of marijuana while a student. over 30 UK MPs have come clean. So I say you UK hona. Politicians in the bebre, we bow say, oh, me ma trimida, we bow say ma trimuda, we see, oh, me ma trimba, kumi nubin so amwame, and yamina mijaye, we see, oh, media ma trimu ebwame, we into say, embrofono, or mokra ejija tumsa. Kanawu was in the UK when in 2000, then Shadow Home Secretary and Widdicombe came up with what the shapeless fat bag thought was a fantastic idea of £100 fines for people caught with even the smallest amount of cannabis. This got her own front benchers so unhappy that 8 of them, including Conservatives Chairman Francis Mood, Shadow Industry Secretary David Willett, and Shadow Environment Secretary Oliver Letwin, to all own up to a drug history. Tim Yu, then agriculture spokesman, but now a backbencher, told the Times, I was offered it on occasion and enjoyed it. I think it can have a much pleasanter experience than having too much to drink. On the other hand, Tory leader David Cameron and former Prime Minister Tony Blair have never admitted previous drug use in spite of countless revelations. When questioned by Observer journalist Andrew Rawnsley at a party conference fringe meeting, Mr. Cameron said, I had a normal university experience, if I can put it like that. In a later television interview, he said, I did lots of things before I came into politics, which I shouldn't have done. We all did. At this point, Gabby Otchere Darko was sort of making points. Say, Embrofo ministers, and Embrofo prime ministers, and Embrofo MPs, Grano, or Mubi now, or my chimping, Ubi so mom so ya chimping, Ubi so mom so ya chimping, into we, and your bonnet. Otremwa, one of Embrofo impenifo cry yes nanka or define air toso say ya chill so kita a ye bon your friend saying we na say ni say no cry or no cry name crop for crash or witty and the same as the now be so tree. And also he told BBC once current affairs program question time, I am allowed to have had a private life before politics in which we made mistakes and we do things that we should not, and we are all human and we err and stray. An analysis in The Guardian last year pointed out that highest profile politicians, the leaders or would-be leaders, still tend to remain coy or adamant in denial. Mr. Cameron, who wants to defeat Gordon Brown, is clearly determined to remain tight-lipped on the subject of his inhaling past. His officials are sticking to an unwavering, unequivocal no comment. David felt and feels politicians are entitled to a past before they came into politics. He had a past and he's not going to be talking about it, a spokesman said. In Britain, gone are the days when a politician's brush with any kind of drug necessarily risk serious, even fatal career damage. It may not be the same here in Ghana, yet Ghanaians are not foolish to allow business accusations deny them of a leadership of hope. As a former US President, Bill Clinton famously admitted using cannabis but not inhaling. But on the subject of whether he has ever taken illegal drugs himself, Mr. Blair remained silent. But Obama has been bold by admitting he used to puff. Some have even accused him of using cocaine in the past. But the American voters believe they know him and they accept that their leaders are also entitled to a past. Thus, to believe you can bring a good man down by fabricating a past or even a current addiction for a politician who never smokes nor drinks alcohol, a politician who is envied, respected, and admired by the majority of Ghanaians as the total leader, is absolutely unwise. It only exposes those behind it as lacking in focus and program. Into here, Okokaya the Babesi Obama so say ye bisa Obama cry say oh no dear no twitwim fine. Eme Obama cry no so ye ka say wo ye cocaine. To here or make points. But sisia we jai say was say tia say politicians Gabby nsemo kan no na was say tia say politicians no they have a past. Omonso nkrofobia wo make wrong decisions emra no musa okodi boni bi emra no usa ene interest ende ye be yusu sa boni no ayeden etia no because ende onye asemo anaga bi kano no. I say in the US, Senator Barack Obama in his 1995 memoir, and a memoir, Dreams from My Father, detailed his drug and alcohol use in his high school and college years. He admitted using pot and booze may be a little blow when you could afford it. Recently, a spokesman for Illinois defended Obama's admission that he had taken cocaine years before. I believe what this country is looking for is someone who is open, honest, and candid about such issues, the spokesman said. Senior Cameron policy advisor Oliver Letwin, who memorably declared he has smoked pot by accident at Cambridge, I was a very pretentious student. He said, I grew a beard and took up a pipe. On one occasion, some friends put some dope in a pipe I was smoking. It had absolutely no effect on me at all. I don't inhale pipes. I say, Tory education spokesman David Willett was quoted as saying, I had 2 puffs. I didn't like it, and I've never had any experience of drugs since then. I say, from 1940, Winston Churchill used the barbiturate, quinal barbitune, after his stroke in 1953. He was given amphetamine. As a private papers disclosed that at the height of the SARS crisis in 1956, Anthony Eden, UK Premier, was on Dronamel, better known as Purple Heart. Mo Mowlam, former Northern Ireland minister, in 2000 admitted she smoked cannabis as a student at Denham. She said, unlike President Clinton, I did inhale, but the ganja classico must go to Boris Johnson. Tory MP responding to an Oxford contemporary who said Johnson had never taken drugs. The Tory MP for Henley said, this is an outrageous slur. Of course, I have taken drugs. So, Tremwa, UK 4, America 4 politicians, akesia, yini na ye homo sono, omokra advertise say, emra no more university, omo SS, omo twitwemu. Intino, Ghana foi, say, no krese President Akufo Addo, na usano, watwitwemu penkrana, na wa experimenti, na watwitwemu penkrana, eni kwanse still, Yehudia, This was a long article written by Gabby Otchere Darko 2010 when the rumors of President Akufo Addo using drugs, trendy. Montre mwaji wa comment box nibo. Medase.